All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Natural Roll Live. I'm your host, Adnan, and I'm here with my co host, Fernando. What's going on, Fernando?
How are you doing? How's everything?
I'm doing good, man. How's your week been, man?
It's been good. My son's birthday actually was on Friday, so I was
Oh, nice,
celebrating
man.
that.
Happy
Um,
birthday. Is
thank
it
you, thank
Gabriel?
you. Yeah, Gabriel. Yep, 5 years old. Can you believe
Happy
it?
birthday, Gabriel. Oh, man.
Yeah,
Dang, the years are
five.
passing by quick.
Seriously, it's crazy.
Kindergarten. He's going to
Yeah,
kindergarten now?
actually, yeah. At the end of August 31st, he starts, and then also Adrian, he
Wow.
starts. He starts up the Montessori toddler room program
Oh,
the same
nice.
day as well.
Nice.
So, pretty soon. The mornings will be a little bit more quiet because
Uh,
they're both going to be gone for like pretty much the most of the day. So yeah, it's going to be a transition, especially
yeah.
because I'm not so used with the pandemic being around them all the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so just not having them around is going to be kind of weird. Although
That's
I
what's
have
up,
been
man.
I've transitioned back to like 3 days out of the week home
Right.
working in the office. So it, but yeah, it's going to be a transition when I'm working remotely those 2 days.
That's awesome, man. Huge milestone as a parent and as a child too, right? Starting
Yeah,
school, it's going to be a new experience, new social experience where they can meet some friends and start developing certain skills that they do develop at home, but not as in
exactly.
depth as they would with like other people that they don't know and stuff. So that's awesome, man. How about
Mhm.
training, man? What's the training? Or
Zero. I feel like
no?
abs failure,
Oh,
bro. Zero training.
no training
It
this
was
week.
it was a very tough week. So my boss is she was going on vacation,
Okay.
so it's like a lot of stuff that I needed to get done. That she needed to provide updates on. So it's like just kind of
Yeah,
like working late, trying to like
busy.
make sure I meet like a few deadlines and things like that. So I didn't get a chance to get any training. I'm sad about that, but hopefully, well, this week I'm definitely gonna start getting back into the swing of things
Yeah,
again. But yeah, this week and
but
then last week was only two trainings, so it hasn't
yeah,
haven't been really training much. Like
yeah. But you know
July
what?
is pretty
I,
much tough.
honestly, sometimes, whether it happens, premeditatedly or it happens just spontaneously, a break is good, man. A
Hmm.
break is good for the body, for the mind. It invigorates you again. You come more energized because sometimes when you're going every single day, it's like, man, I gotta go again. I gotta go again, and you kind of gas out a little bit. Burnout, burnout
Yeah.
is real, right? But
Hmm.
then when you have a nice little break, you come back with fire, man. You're like, yo, I'm gonna train really hard and get back into it. I took those 2 weeks off and I didn't do any jujitsu. The first week because I was feeling too well. Second
Yeah.
week, because I went on my trip. This week, man, I got 5 sessions in, which is
I see.
fairly good.
Yeah.
I'm usually like I'm between the 3 and 4. This one I got 5. With the only break I got was on Wednesday, with the midpoint, but it was really good. A lot of teaching, working on butterfly sweeps, and just looking at different variations from that butterfly guard. Um, and then there's just a lot of roles. Like yesterday, we were at the movement lab. There wasn't too many people, but we got some solid rounds in. And working with Jamal, who's a brown belt, is nice. Everybody else is either a blue belt or a white belt, so they have a different level of skill that you kind of can
Yeah.
that you go against. So it's a little different, nice going with a higher belt. So, but yeah, a lot of rounds. Broke a good sweat. So I'm looking forward to next week. God willing, it'll be the same exact way, and we'll just keep pushing forward. But that's it, man. Just trying to work on my butterfly. Develop it. Marcelo Garcia is one of my favorite butterfly guard players, and I think I when I think of who to mimic myself after, I feel like Marcelo would probably be the best because he's not like super explosive, but he's
Hmm.
super technical and he plays like this very compressed game, especially with his butterfly guard that has worked well, on big stages, ADCC champion and multiple time world champion. So I think for me that'd be a good approach. So, but that's
Yeah.
it, man. That was the week, bro.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw your pictures and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
every
man.
time I
Gotta
feel like,
get you in here,
you
man.
training, yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm not doing
You know,
anything. Like,
and
I
you know
can't,
what
how
was
can I have a Dinky BJJ account and I don't even practice BJJ? I'm about to change it.
this whole week, I was like, what does dinky mean? Why dinky?
Oh,
Yeah, first, before we get into our show, I want to ask you, what does dinky? What is it? Where does it come from?
so it's funny. Nobody in my family calls me Fernando.
Okay.
Nobody. My name is Dinky. Well, my legal name is Fernando,
Right.
but
Right.
everybody calls me. It's a nickname, because I'm half Puerto Rican. Puerto Ricans always have like nicknames for everybody. Like my mom,
Yeah.
nobody calls her Helen. Her name is Poochie. And then yeah, exactly. And then me,
Yeah. That's
it's
crazy.
always been Dinky. So like I, it's kind of crazy story. So like right before I started school, I remember my grandmother pulling me to the side and like, listen, I'm gonna tell you something. Your name is not Dinky. It's actually Fernando. And it was like,
Wow.
I'm like, what? Well, what do you mean? So, but yeah, like everybody, like my family, they always call me Dinky. So like that's
So what's your brother's
hmm?
nickname? What's your brother's nickname?
Oh no, his actually, they tried to give him a nickname, but for some reason it never
It didn't
stuck.
stick. It didn't
It didn't
stick.
stick, yeah. So it's like Jason, and then my sister, her name is Alexandra, but we call her Ali, and that one stuck. So like nobody
Yeah.
calls her Alexandra. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of like weird, me even saying
Yeah.
it, because but we all call
Yeah.
her Ali and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we grew up with like with nicknames. Well, Diego D, but that's just obvious. And
Hmm.
then me, my name is Hernan or Hernan in Spanish, right? But they
Hmm.
call me Jay. So
Yeah,
I
I was
grew up.
always wondered that,
Yeah,
but I
so you
never.
hear Diego, you hear Diego sometimes like, yo, yeah, Jay, what's
Yeah.
up, Jay? Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's because my father's name is Hernan, so I grew up as Junior. So they
Mm,
just cut it short and say, okay, since he's D, you're gonna be Jay. So that I've been Jay for like forever. And I even had some friends used to call me Jay, and all my family they don't call me Hernan, they call me Junior.
that's
Um,
interesting. Wow, I
yeah,
never knew that.
yeah. And then our kids have nicknames too. So like my oldest kid, his name is Bebo.
Really?
Typical Puerto Rican
Yeah.
nickname, Bebo.
Yep.
Um, I don't know what my second one is. I think it's Bojos. Bojos, I think I
Really?
want to say. Yeah. My daughter is Chupis. My second daughter is Chulis, and the next boy his name's Ali, but we call him Alito. He's just Alito.
Hmm.
And then my last kid, I call him Choco Loco. I call him my little Choco Loco. So yeah, man, we just playful names.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
But that's what's up, man. I always want to know, like, what's Dinky mean? Like, where
Yeah,
did it
yeah,
come
yeah.
from?
So like I used to make like the story goes like when I was a kid I used to make a noise like as a baby and
Uh
like
huh.
dinky dinky like that, and then they just like made it like, and then it just stuck, and I'm almost 38, gonna be 40 in like 2 years, and I'm still
Still
called
Dinky.
Dinky. Yeah, exactly. So
That's good, man. That's just that's good. Just that we embrace it. It came out of love. So
hmm,
that's what's up, man.
yeah,
All right, man. Let's get into this topic, bro. Oh man, this one I'm nervous about. We were
yeah.
talking a little bit backstage, and like, whoo, this one's gonna be an interesting one. So let's set the stage. Let's set the stage. Why don't you set the stage and
All
let
right.
us know why we're talking about this?
So I'm not gonna go into like names, so just imagine I'm gonna paint this story, this picture out there. I'll tell a little story time with Fernando of Dinky. Story time with Dinky. Imagine you 10-year-old, right? You're showing this major promise in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You're winning tournaments, you're just, you have like real potential. You go, obviously you've outgrown your gym. So now you're training, your parents decide to move you to like, another gym with world champions. You're training with, 80cc veterans, things of that nature. Then you get into, you know, and you're a 10-year-old girl, I should say. Let me just preface that. You know, Obviously when you grow up you start to develop, physically, maturing as an adult, as you're getting into, an adult, and then you hit 15, and then I guess your coach or whatever, like you start to, you because when you with your coach, you develop that, like that, that connectiveness, like you trust in your coach, you
Right.
know like and things like that, and all of a sudden that trust turns to physical attraction, which leads to intimacy. um I just wanted to I guess bring that to the attention, like, because we've seen like a couple of these cases, and like I said, yeah, it is a controversial topic, little like uneasy talking about it, but I think that it needs to be brought up,
Absolutely.
as, fathers of children. Um, what could we do, I guess to mitigate that, what signs, things like that that we, I guess what boundaries are there with that the teacher
Yeah.
student, like that expectation that we discussed like a couple episodes ago. And I just wanted to get your feedback
Yeah.
on the topic.
Yes. So for many people, so for those who don't know,
Mhm.
this has been a hot topic going on. I think the last week or so, where some key practitioners in the jiu-jitsu community have been involved in some type of scandal, cover-ups, and even some of them have been accused of you know or guilty found guilty of these issues, these child abuse, sexual molestations and stuff like that. And
Molestation, yeah,
it's a
pedophilia.
as a father, as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, is very difficult. Even reading this stuff throughout the week, I'm like, oh my god, what is going on? And but I've been watching videos about it and reading the ins and outs of it. One, to prepare for today's show, and two, to really find out like what is this all this madness going on. And indeed, it is something that should be talked about. Um, and because that's one of the issues that causes or that causes us to reach to this point, is that people stay quiet, right?
Hmm.
People are quiet, they hide things, they want to, maybe they don't want to believe it, or they just don't want to bring it up to light. That's one of the issues, right? But so we felt today that we wanted to talk a little bit about this in addition to other sensitive boundaries that instructors and students and the community in itself should respect. Obviously, this is the leading topic, so we're going to lead with this. But in general, the goal is for today, talk about respecting boundaries, the student teacher expectation part two. And those boundaries are, could be gender based, could be, age, religion, race, creed, all that stuff, where you have to like know, as a decent moral human being should know, that there are limitations and there's certain boundaries that we just do not cross and we have to respect. So yeah, so let's get into it, man. So what's on your mind, Fernando?
Yeah, so it's something that, like I said, any human, like a decent, person that has like some sort of, like a moral upbringing, should know. Like, I mean, if there's a little girl, you know, you shouldn't be, like crossing, those lines, like if, and especially because I mean they don't know any better,
Right.
like I feel like you are, you're violating that trust and you setting them down on a path for like self-doubt. How can they trust anybody moving forward?
It's a difficult
It's pretty
situation.
free that, I'm sorry, my bad, Hernan, did you say something?
No, I was just saying, yeah, it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, so like it kind of coincides because right now I'm gonna be the assistant coach for my son's soccer program, and we had to take like that the sensitivity training and things like that,
Yeah.
and just to see like stories. So like one of the videos that we had was as part of the presentation was they had interviewed some people that had been accused or accused and found guilty of taking advantage of little kids and things like that. It can happen anywhere.
Right.
It can, I'm Catholic, so it can take place at the church. Like priests, clergy, anybody, and these people they use that like it's easy for them because it's like, oh, I can build build their trust. Hey, I'm
Right.
a
Yeah.
I'm a part of your church, like you can trust me,
Right.
and let's go hang out or let's, and so just to, see that, I think that we as, parents and even as a community, that we should band together to, we have a responsibility as parents and as, a part of the BJJ community to see, to take care of our children, to make sure that, they are given, because ultimately, like the goal of BJJ, you know, is to, establish, self confidence, learn how to self defense, But if we're taking advantage of that, like where does that reality, where does that end?
Right.
Like we teaching them to, we're giving those life skills, but yet we are, potentially ruining their innocence because we cannot satisfy our, our urges, and I put that in quotes,
Right.
so
Right.
that's
Yeah.
something that stuck with me, and it's just like it kind of bothered me, and to read these articles. And there's another story too that I haven't even touched on yet. Involves a former UFC fighter, that we'll get into later on.
Right.
So these are things that are like kind of like bothers me because like I said, like the ultimate goal of BJJ, is to uplift the community. So it kind of pains me and saddens me to see that while we trying to stress uplifting the community, we're potentially doing harm to potential or future members of our community. And that's
Right.
something that I think needs to be addressed and ultimately weeded out and stopped.
Yeah. And as an instructor, as instructors, right?
Mhm.
We are our goal is to create a safe space for children to come and, as you mentioned, develop certain skills, build their confidence. One thing you got to keep in mind is that a lot of kids don't just come in because they're interested in the sport and they want to be an athlete, right? They want to be a world champion. Most kids are coming into a program because they're facing bullying issues, right?
Yeah.
They already have a lack of confidence. They're facing issues that are difficult for them to juggle and manage emotionally, at their age, right? Maybe as an adult, we're like, well, that is not a big deal. But you got to keep in mind that the mind of a child is on a different level than an adult, right? Maybe an adult can handle a bullying issue in a certain way. Kids
Yeah.
process it much differently, and parents are there to recognize some signs. And sometimes their decision is, I'm going to put them in a martial arts program, whether it's jujitsu or anything else.
Yeah.
The intent is for them to go and help develop these skills. Now, as an instructor, as an owner, you are trying to create an environment, a welcome environment. And that's one of the expectations, that the
The
student
teachers.
has of the
Yeah.
teacher, right? That we mentioned in the last show. Your purpose or your goal, one of the major things that you need to do for students is create a welcoming, comfortable, safe environment. It's a safe space where people are going to come in and develop certain skills, test themselves so that they can become better individuals, right? For
Yeah.
themselves, for people around them. And now within that safe space, you're creating an environment of distrust, of disloyalty, of abuse. And so it's like it's a paradox, right? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And that in itself is wrong, right? We get it, that, and we were talking about this before. It's like we understand that, people, mature people who are conscious that of their actions and know what they're doing. And this, for me as a parent, excludes, kids, because kids, whether they say, I'm old enough and I know what I'm doing and I can make decisions on my own, I don't think that they're fully there, right?
Yeah.
And you know, scientists or doctors will tell you that a kid, frontal lobe doesn't really develop, frontal lobe doesn't develop completely until they're 25 years old, right? So they're not fully there until like they're 25, right?
Mhm.
That's just the scientific part of it, right? And again, I'm not a scientist or a doctor to say, like, to give you like facts, but this is what I've heard, right? And as a parent who's raising teenage kids, I can see that, right? So we can't say that, but let's say like two adults in the jujitsu school, and they kick it, they hit it off,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they fall in love. Hey, more power to you, congratulations, happy, move on. Same way as it happens at work, same way it could happen on anywhere in the world, right? No
Exactly.
problem. The issue is when it crosses those boundaries of age, what regardless of what gender. As an adult, we need to understand that society as a whole doesn't allow it, right?
Hmm.
Why do you think? Why should it happen in a gym, or why you as an individual think that it's acceptable, or whatever it is, right? Or even if the girl is, or the boy
Yeah.
is willing, right?
Willing.
Willing,
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
right? I mean, they don't know any better.
Yeah.
You have to be, and as an adult, you should be mindful of that situation and make better choices, because you're taking away from that safe space someone's trying to create, whether it's an assistant coach or a student or or you're creating because you're the owner and the instructor. I mean,
Mhm.
it just doesn't happen. And I saw a video. Um, there was there's a bunch of stuff going on in Instagram and stuff, people posting stuff, and it's
Yep.
like all of a sudden everybody's dirt is surfacing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got people who because they're big names in the
The
community, some
sport.
other
Yeah.
people that you might not know who are just regular coaches at different gyms, but all of a sudden everybody's coming up. And one gentleman who spoke against it, and he said it probably like in the best way possible, was Andrew Wiltse. And really, really great message that he sent out. You guys should see it on Instagram.
Yep.
Now I don't, did you watch it? Did you get to
Yes,
see
I
it?
did. Yep.
I mean, he spit it like it's supposed to be spit, and he used strong words,
And
right?
yeah.
Things, words that as a 40-year-old man don't feel comfortable using.
Mhm.
A couple f bombs in there or whatever,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. For the
but
sake of the
that
family show, yeah, we will not
exactly
say it here. Yeah.
right. And if you want to hear that version, go ahead and watch his message on his public service announcement on Instagram. But that's how it should be, man. Like, you're a jerk, an idiot if you do so, and you're disgusting, right? If
Mhm.
that's the case, right? You got to know your limitations. So as an instructor, I need to provide that welcome environment just the same way that we said it. At the same time, I also need to establish those boundaries, right? The problem with schools is, and this is something that should just come about from your own upbringing. And maybe sometimes I know some people have difficult upbringings; they might not know the difference. I mean, obviously, I don't understand it because we had a certain upbringing where we do value, you know, that boundary, or we respect that
Yeah, we
boundary.
respect that value.
Um, and that's so mindfully we're like, yeah, that's not gonna happen, right? And as a father, I'm like, that's no way, I wouldn't accept it, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but it's hard for gyms to like say on their codes and tenants, here you go, guys, don't do this, this, and this. I mean, it doesn't really happen. But what
Hmm.
should happen, what must happen, is that people can't stay quiet.
Yep.
That people can't. The minute you hear something, even if it's a joke, right? If somebody said it out of stupidity,
Hmm.
you'll speak up and tell the person in charge, or tell the parent, or whatever the case may be,
Like, hey.
so that something can happen early and it doesn't linger on, right?
Hmm.
Let's touch upon this thing that you sent me about the UFC fighter, right?
Yep.
Well, we'll mention names, right? Just
Hmm.
keep this like anonymous, right? But I'm sure like people are going to start
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. It's mhm.
Tell us the detail, like what happened,
So
like in general.
so this UFC fighter, she recently came out saying that she was kicked out of her gym because she had told her coach that she was pregnant by him.
Right.
So he kicked her out of the gym. um, she, she was hurt, upset because, they had been in a relationship since she was 15 years old, and he, significantly older. So she thought it was all good. She's 27. They've been together,
12 years.
it makes me cringe,
Just thinking about it.
whatever, it makes me cringe, but, they've been together like for 12 years.
Right.
So she's like, oh, like, oh, you've been together for that long. Hey, I'm pregnant, like, hey, but like the fact that like she was in this relationship with this man since she was a teenager, and this is fun, this is now coming to light, because I'm sure like this is the first time I've heard of it, so who knows, who knew about that stuff,
Yeah.
so like it kind of like once again goes into like like now she's like kicked out, she needs like assistance,
Right.
with help for the baby,
Yeah.
but somebody that she knew and trusted as her coach that crossed that line, and then now is like basically kicking her to the curb,
12 years
so
later, that's
yeah.
crazy.
Hmm.
So this touches upon the point where I was trying to make, was the minute you hear something, the
Yep.
minute you know something, whether you're another student, whether you're a parent, whether you're a coach, or you're the instructor themselves, you got to take action, man. You got to do something about it. You can't be like, well, man, this is my boy. This is the
Exactly.
guy. I flew him in. I'm helping him out. Making excuses for whatever it may be. You need to respect the fact that, number one, it is wrong, morally wrong. I don't think there's any society now that is really openly promoting this. Maybe there's certain groups, you know, in the cut that are saying, you know, this should be okay, which is just madness to me.
Yep.
But in general, this is something that society doesn't view as acceptable, right? And so, as a community, we need to learn to speak about it quick or sooner, because there isn't a general rule on the wall that says, hey coach, hey instructor, hey whoever you may be, don't do this, right? That's just something that you should know from just being a decent human being in society. You know what I mean? And now the other thing is, like, so should instructors vet whoever they come and have as come in as assistants? Should owners like do that? Should they run background checks?
That's a good question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think they should.
Okay.
I think that they should, right? If you're, especially if it's somebody that you don't really have a very deep
Mhm.
relationship with, and honestly, even if you do, I think it's still a good practice as a business to run background checks and see if these people have any type of criminal records, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I've read some of these people who have changed their names and people didn't know about it for years, and all of a sudden, oh no, his real name is Fulano Mengano, right? And I'm like, what the hell? I was like, yo, this guy's been masking himself for so many years. Nobody knew about it, and this is a reality. So I think as a business, if you're trying to hire people, doesn't matter if you trained with him for 30 years. Honestly, if we both grew up and we being black belts on the same day, you still should run a background check, because you don't
Absolutely.
know what he does outside of the gym. That's just
Yep.
real, right?
Mhm.
And that's me. And you know, we're hoping to eventually open up our own spot. That's gonna be my approach. Like, especially with this going on now, it's like I'm more convinced that that's the best way to do things, right?
Exactly.
And even if you hire an assistant coach, the same thing, man. Like, because you're trusting people with other people, and put you got to put the right people in those leadership positions that other people are going to be trusted. Because one of the things we talked about was like, sometimes when people are in a position of authority, people are looking up to them, they
Exactly.
respect them, they
Mhm.
value them, they want to be like them.
Yep.
And so it's hard for an individual, especially a child, to say, hey, no, I don't want this, because they're looking up to this person. They're like, but if I say no, maybe this guy is gonna do X, Y, and Z, or
Yep.
this lady's gonna do X, Y, and Z, you know, or they're gonna kick me off the team,
Exactly.
or they're not going to, you know, sponsor me for this, so they're gonna do this or that. There's always gonna find some type of excuse to
To
say, well, maybe I
justify.
should, a
Yeah.
justification to accept what's going on,
Mhm.
right? So as a business owner, that's the case. And honestly, I think moving forward, the fact that people are speaking about it, you got people like Andrew Wiltsey coming on saying it, you got other people who are being very vocal about it. I hope that it resonates, it starts resonating.
It starts
Um,
change. Yeah.
yeah,
Within.
to every gym, and that they have within their coaches, their staff, they have these private meetings. They should be having meetings probably monthly and talk about this. I mean, it's
Mhm.
happening at work. I mean, even within our organization in the last year, um, you know, training on sexual harassment
Yep.
has risen. I mean, I think you're doing it
Yep.
on a yearly basis. They've hired, you know, external consultants to come and talk about it and give presentations about it, because this issue a real issue. It's a difficult issue, right? But as now as a jiu-jitsu community, as an instructor, as a business owner, now we have to think, okay, well, what's next? What's the next step? Like you
Exactly.
said, when you were going for your coaching, to come, you know, come on board
Mhm.
for the coaching position, you took that training.
Yep.
You
Also
take
background checked.
back,
Also. Yep.
exactly. You
Mhm.
take. I'm sure at work you're
Fingerprinted. Yep.
taking. I'm sure at work you're taking annual, you know, sexual
Yep.
harassment. When I was
Sensitivity
doing
training. Yep.
exact training, when we did our graduate studies at UMD, or with my current university, I had to take a training. Like, you couldn't graduate until you took this training,
Yep. Mhm.
because you have to, because they know you're going to be dealing with people, you're going to be meeting with different people in groups, and you have to learn, be mindful of those boundaries. I think that that should also happen in the jiu-jitsu community,
Absolutely.
you know.
And also too, so I wanted to bring up, because you are the father of two young girls who train. I guess now that you hear some of these things are going on, like what would you do? Like, what steps would you take to, like, let's say they were training at an academy, they have the children classes and things
Right.
like that. Would you be there like as a constant presence? How about private lessons and things like that?
Yeah.
Like how how would that work? Like in now, in your shoes, because I mean, like I said, I have, well, I shouldn't say, because I have two young boys, because then they can happen to anybody, not just
Exactly.
male, female. It doesn't.
Exactly.
These people know no boundaries on like gender and things like that. Like, how would you approach it now, since they're also practicing,
Yeah.
in jujitsu?
So it's a
If they were a part of academy, that's
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and they have been, and they have been,
Mhm.
right? So for me, I think it's a little different because I'm highly involved. So, and because I train jujitsu, right? I'm an
Yeah,
instructor, so when I take them to class, I'm there watching the whole time. And to be honest, when I used to do kung fu as a kid, right? I used, and my parents would be watching our class. Maybe not with the intention to be like, okay, let me see what's happening. I hope nobody messes with him or whatever. But more because they were excited to see what their son is doing, right?
hmm
For me, I'm the same way. I want to see, oh, let me see how my daughter's doing. Especially the girls, you get excited because you know that jujitsu is a predominantly male sport, right?
yeah,
Even up to this day, even though it's been around for years and years, even to this day, the women portion of jujitsu, the women community, the women only community is growing,
a lot.
but it's
Yeah.
still, yeah, a lot. And you have
hmm
a lot of high players now, which is a very good
Yeah.
practitioners, which is awesome for the future generation. But in reality, it's still a male dominated sport. So I like to see like how my daughter does against other boys and be like, oh man, I know she can defend herself. So that for me is like I'm interested in their progress and their development. I'm not really there to see that with the mindset of like let me see what this instructor is going to do and kind of being vigilant on those type of actions. However, um, I recommend parents in general being there, being present, being around when those classes are happening. Um, Kind of with this with the mindset of like, all right, let me just make sure things are cool. Let me build a rapport and a trust with this coach. But at the same time, it also and let me, before I get to my other point, is, but I understand that that's not always feasible, right? Because
Yeah.
parents have errands to do. They might just drop off their kid and might have to go do something else. They got to use their time wisely because time is limited with children. um so you might just have to drop them off, kind of like you do at school. Here's dropping off,
Yeah.
my son at daycare, and I'm off, right? You're putting them
That
in the
blind
trust of, in
trust.
the hands of someone else.
Yeah.
So I know with jujitsu, that may happen. We have kids that come on come to the gym, and parents leave. You know, um, so it's a very difficult thing for me personally. I like to be involved, not more so because of their development, but I would recommend that parents at least show up every now and then, be involved in that process, just to make sure that you have full confidence as a parent that this is the right place, that the right things are going on. Second thing is, make I personally don't advocate for kids taking private lessons
Okay.
unless you're going to be there and you're willing to sit in that 1 hour looking with your eyeballs sticking out of your head, making sure things are in accordance to what your expectation is, right? But I
hmm
wouldn't be like, okay, here's my daughter, here's my son. I know, make him a world champion. Here's your fee. I'm gone. I'll be back in an hour. I would never do that,
Yeah.
ever, because that is a hairy issue. At least in the class, you got other kids, you got
Exactly.
other
Yeah.
coaches, and I would recommend that if you're going to put your child in a program, that you put your child in a program that has multiple coaches on the mat in that class, not just
hmm
one instructor. I would say have multiple coaches on the mat so that they can hold each other accountable, in case they see something. You would hope that other people speak on, and then again, this touches upon the point that if you see something, if you hear something, speak out about it. Whether you're a coach, an
Not even the
assistant
belt
coach,
color. Yeah.
doesn't matter what belt cover. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You could have a
You-
white belt, no stripe.
exactly.
You say something right away.
Yeah.
It could be your first class. I don't
Exactly.
care.
hmm
So that's one thing I would do as a father, um, in light of all this crap that's going on, right? Um, be involved. Make sure that the school is very well known, very well established. Run checks on the school, like learn their history, what they've done, their accomplishments, who they have involved, who they have there, who are their main instructors. I mean, you have to vet that place out because you're gonna put your. It's the same way you do for school. I'm sure for your son. You're like, I want to put him in the best school. You're not just
Exactly.
gonna put him in any. any school for whatever reason. Like even for myself, my kids are in the public school system, but we went the first day and said, okay, who's the principal, who's the assistant principal, who's the teacher,
Mhm.
who they're gonna be.
Yep.
Even now, we do the same thing. It's the same level of effort that you need to do for the as a parent for jujitsu. But I would never let them be alone in private sessions. I wouldn't do that. I'd
Okay.
recommend that they don't.
Yeah, because that's one thing that popped into my head. I'm like, man, what about
Yeah,
private? You know, thinking, yeah, and it
unless you're
probably
gonna be there.
exactly, and it probably might not be the best question for you because I mean you're a black belt, so like
Mm,
who better to give your daughters privates than you know, because you
right,
know
right,
you
right.
have a high level of understanding, but like somebody like me, who's a blue belt, one stripe blue belt, but like I still feel like I'm just scratching the surface of my, BJJ journey. I don't know everything, I don't claim to know
But,
everything, but like,
but the cool thing, the
mhm.
good thing, even about being a blue belt or a white one stripe blue belt, is that you still know a lot more than any child would probably know, unless that child is like 13, 14, 15 years old and is very competitive, right?
Like
Because
making
we
it
know that
loud.
there's some, yeah, you know some of those kids who are like phenomenal. They've been training since they're 4, now they're 16 and they're smashing black belts. I mean,
Mhm.
that's not the situation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking about um, kids who are younger and more vulnerable. So like somebody, for example, like your son, you have enough experience to teach them. Even honestly, I think if I was a blue belt and my daughter wanted more jujitsu and was like, hey, let me do a private with the professor, I'd be like, no,
Yeah,
I'll help you.
exactly.
I'll drill
Mhm.
with you.
Yep.
We'll figure it out. We'll watch a video together and we'll do it. Right. As a black belt, obviously, like you said, there's a benefit because, now I have more years of experience and I can share them at a greater level of understanding than I would have
Exactly.
as a blue belt. But even so, I still wouldn't recommend it, honestly. It's a very
Yeah.
hairy thing, man. Honestly, I wouldn't do it. Even honestly, even if you were a woman, if you're a woman, an older woman, 18 plus, and honestly, even for me, 18, I would say like 25 plus or whatever, like,
Yeah.
a woman, what society would classify as a woman, I would still be very mindful of having private lessons with with an instructor. I personally would recommend that you do it as a buddy system, or do a group discount, like say, okay, hey, 3 of us, let's go and train with the professor, smaller group, a lot more attention, and that's as good as you're gonna get with a one-on-one session, because sometimes you just don't know where people are going, or people,
Mhm.
and you have to recognize those signs, you know, from both directions. It's a two-way street. As an instructor too, you might be sexually assaulted as an instructor too. That you might be receiving unwelcomed, you know, signals,
Advances. Yeah, exactly.
advancements, right?
Yeah.
And you yourself, as an instructor, have to make it known, like, hey, I'm not comfortable with that. And obviously, as an between adults, you can have that level of conversation,
Yeah.
um, and hopefully maybe the person misunderstood, and that's good, and that's it. But sometimes you might have to go even further and potentially do uh, um do something else that's more drastic, like remove them from the gym, kind of like what we heard here, whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully it never happens, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, even in that, man. So I personally wouldn't do it unless, like, the guy is 100% okay, like, they've done background checks, and he's good to go, right?
Mhm.
And there's some people that you just know, like,
Yeah,
like, this
yeah.
guy's never gonna do this, right? This guy is
Absolutely.
is is, is good. But you got to be careful, because there's a saying that, you know you know in a setting of two people, the third person is the devil, right?
Mhm.
And there's those little whispers, man, and you got all of a sudden, and whatever belief you have, but sometimes those temptations are real, man, and now you start thinking about one thing and the other, or whatever, especially if they're both attractive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I personally would say be mindful of it. Maybe a buddy system would be better. It's in light of the controversies that are going on now. That's probably going to be my best advice if you want to develop in that sense. So,
Exactly.
um yeah, and
That makes
and
sense. Yeah.
or ask those questions during class so that everybody could benefit, or ask the questions right after class where people are still in the room, still changing, and say, hey, professor, you got 5 minutes, let me ask you this question. And it might not be a one-on-one 1 hour private, but I'm guarantee you that you're going to get something more with that one-on-one interaction in those 5, 10, 15 minutes, um, in that safer
Group
environment
setting.
where
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
still
Mhm.
coming in and out, people are still talking in the background, maybe other classes are going on. So I'm saying that that's probably something that people should consider in moving forward.
And for those listening, make
So
sure to like, subscribe, share. This is something that myself, Hernan, and Diego, we work very hard. We're using this platform, to uplift the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu community, or uplift the community through Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So
right.
if you get a chance, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Because this is content that we feel like it's important, that should be discussed. You know. And that you should be having throughout your academies.
Absolutely. And with that said, let's take a quick commercial break.
I can't wait
All
for that
right.
care package.
Yeah, we're working on that, man. I was talking about that with Diego yesterday. We're still working with our supplier to make sure that
Mhm.
we get him all the right information, because that's one of the hard things is working with people overseas, is that we got to make sure that everything is right. Because once production starts and they start shipping, and you
Yeah.
get stuff that you don't want, what can you do about it?
Mhm.
But yeah, let's get back to this. We were talking about respecting boundaries, student teacher expectations, part two. In light of the situations that have been going on, respecting those boundaries of age and gender, and let's go into a little bit about respecting other boundaries that exist. Race, religion, creed, ethnicity, whatever.
Absolutely.
And we
Mhm.
won't get into details about it, but I believe that instructors should have those general talks, maybe at the beginning, at the end of class, where, hey, we're all one team, we're one family, we're all here to push each other, and we're all on the same level, same playing field. Um, doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you are. If individuals have certain in if individuals have individual opinions, feelings, perceptions, beliefs, that's cool. Maybe that's cool. You can have those. That's great, and you can express them in an educated way. If you want to solicit a conversation, right? That's no problem. But you got to learn how to, or you have to understand that we need to do that in a respectful manner, right?
Absolutely. Mhm.
Right. And it's like this issue, like for example, at work, right? What are the things that you don't talk about at work?
Oh, politics,
Politics,
religion.
religion.
Yeah. Me personally, like, one thing that, like, I was brought up, like, like, let's say, I have a female colleague that had like a new haircut. Nowadays, I'm not, I won't even acknowledge it. You know why? Because, like, kind of get like scared, because you never know that they might take it the wrong way.
Right.
You could just say, hey, nice haircut, but
Yeah.
they can be like, oh, he's coming on to me. Then all of a
Right.
sudden it's an HR issue. So, like, even then, like now, I don't even say nothing. Like,
Yeah.
I treat
Yeah.
him like one of the fellas. Well, you got hair,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Nothing to do
Exactly.
with
Right.
me.
And we live in that type of society now, right?
Hmm.
Because people trigger happy, right?
Yep.
You got to be very careful. So yeah, but those are the things that you don't talk about at work, right? Or if you do talk about it, if it gets to the point where you're so comfortable with your coworker, right, and you can start talking about those things and have a friendly debate about it, it still has to be within that spectrum of respect, right?
Hmm.
um it can't get to the point where, like, oh, I'm going to treat you differently just because you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, right?
Exactly. Hmm.
Or you're a Muslim and I'm a Christian or Catholic, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
That, so the same thing happens in the jiu-jitsu community, in the gym. As an instructor, I think it's your duty to be able to establish and deliver a message to your students that, hey, everybody here, doesn't matter who you are. You could be whoever you want outside. Here, you train jujitsu. right? Here we're on the mats. We all got the white, blue, black geese or whatever color geese. We're all wearing a belt. We're all here for one purpose: to make each other better at jujitsu,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that message crystal clear. Whatever you guys do individually, if you go outside after a class and say, "Hey, let's go grab a a drink or let's grab some lunch," and at that in that setting, you want to have a conversation about your religion or politics or the world, current events or whatever, or whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated.
Yeah,
That's the new one.
yeah,
Yeah, do it on your own time. And but always do it with the mindset that you're going to be respectful of people's opinions. Like you're not going to be able to convince everybody of everything. Like
yeah.
don't be a bigot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be a bigot and think that everybody has to do what you do, right? Or everybody has to live like you live or think like you think. People, we have to respect people's opinions. And in on the mats, we're there for that one purpose. Obviously you're going to develop relationships, you're going to develop uh, friendships or
Mm-hmm.
acquaintances,
Yep.
but you got to do it with that mindset of always being respectful of people's boundaries. And as an instructor, as a teacher, letting people know that, hey, this environment is a welcoming environment for everybody. you got
Exactly.
to you got to make that clear as best as you can. You got to make that clear often. It's not one thing that you just say at the first day you open your school. You have to say that every single other day or every day. Like, hey man, we're here to get better, boom, and just keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, and you got people, new people coming in and out, right? um
Yeah.
yeah, man, I think that's important.
Yeah, and that's yeah, because I also feel like that's very good to establish that culture, from the instructor down, because like how what they say that the fish rot from the head or whatever, one of those sayings, like so like starting up from the top, it'll trickle down, all the way to the bottom
Yeah,
because well, you know what? Uh, Now that you bring up like students come and go all the time, like I started to think about it too just now, what what are we doing to like vet like students as well because like you don't know they could be Joe Schmo who's who could be a sex offender and you have no idea and they're coming into the school and things
right.
like that so it's like yeah I don't know maybe there's another topic for another day but my mind like is just like
No, you're
all
right.
over the place because as we talk about things like more questions are popping in my head and I know we only have like an hour show so
Yeah.
yeah.
No, you're right, man. And but that is a much more difficult task, right? Because let's say as a successful business you're signing up 20, 30, 40, 100 people a month. Then are
Hmm.
you really going to do 100 background checks?
No, no,
Are you
because that costs money.
that's money, that's headache, man. That's
Hmm.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
um I think that boils down to maybe references. I don't know, you're going to call references, you're going to be like, okay, give me 3 references, let me find out who you really are. That even that works. Even as a person who's looking for a new job, you're always going to put the right people going to speak on best about you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Your mom, your dad, and your brother.
Yeah.
Right. um so I think that's hard. I think that'll be a difficult thing to do. But and I think that's why it's really important as leaders of a community, as instructors, as influential individuals. And I'm not saying we are either one of those. I'm just saying I'm talking about other people who are
Yeah.
in that limelight. Freaking ADCC vets or UFC fighters, that you own a gym or whatever, or any type of leader in the forefront of any type of movement, right? Um, you need to make it clear that if something happens, you got to speak up, right?
Hmm.
And we mentioned this at the beginnings, the first part of the segment of the show. You have to say something.
If you
You have
see
to speak
something,
up.
say
If you,
something.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you see that on the subway everywhere,
Our
right?
whole MTA slogan. Yeah. If you see
Exactly, right?
something, say something. Yeah.
Exactly. And that came about from the old, because of the whole terrorism issues and stuff, seeing book
Yeah.
bags anywhere.
Mhm.
That was craziness, right? You have to have the same mindset, man. Because technically this is straight up terrorism too. You got people, being vultures on other people.
Yeah.
Again, regardless of age, regardless of gender. Obviously, unfortunately, it's been happening more so in the younger community. Um, but you got to say something. And I think as an instructor, with along with that welcoming message, maybe you got to say that. And I mean, hey, look, we're not about that business. If anybody feels uncomfortable, feel free to come talk to me, tell me something or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Put a message in the little. Maybe you have to have a little suggestion box like back in school, right?
I know,
Some
right?
people might not be very vocal about it, but they might be able to write that. Maybe
Yeah,
that's what you got to do.
anonymous. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Send me put a little anonymous note in like the suggestion box or something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Well, they have that whistleblower hotline. Some,
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that that has to kind of boil down to that, right? But that's kind of that's what I feel like we kind of have to do, especially if with instructors. Obviously, it's a little easier, right? You're hiring people, you can do background checks on that end.
Mm-hmm.
But with people who are coming in that just want to come and train, man, you people got to be vigilant. And I don't want to say that, oh man, now people are gonna be on their toes and like, oh wait, don't talk to me. Who are you first? Let me,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
still be cool, and be respectful of people. You're not gonna be a jerk, just because you got a little bit of anxiety of who's who and what's what. But yeah, but you kind of have to just have that general understanding, and maybe these things happen so that we can educate ourselves even better,
Yeah,
and remind ourselves is that if you see something, say something. If you feel if something's happening to you, go to the authorities, go to
exactly.
a person that you trust, and let them speak on your behalf. If if you don't have the confidence to do it, if you feel uncomfortable doing it, speak to your instructor. If you believe that he's just an upright individual and he's going to do something about it. Talk to other students and tell them so that maybe you can bound together and go say something
Yeah,
about
strength in numbers. You know,
strength in
exactly.
numbers, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's a sensitive issue, sensitive topic. I feel uncomfortable talking about it, like we
Yeah,
said,
exactly.
because I in no way want to say anything against wrong, right? I mean, I am 100% as a father, as we said, as an instructor, really, really adamant about students not being involved. Luckily for me, my current program, it's very rare that potentially happen, but at the place that I teach, even that, when I communicate, I'm still like, hey, respectful people's places. They know I'm very vocal about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, man, it's just it's a very difficult thing. But I'm hoping. I know we're almost at the top of the hour. I'm hoping that what we said is of some value to
Yep.
anybody who's listening, to parents who are thinking about putting their kids in programs. Uh, we don't want the community, the jiu-jitsu community, to dwindle on due to the actions of some idiot individuals,
Yep.
right? Jiu-jitsu is still beautiful. Jiu-jitsu is still an amazing art. You get so much
Absolutely.
benefit from it. There are
Hmm.
so many great schools, so many great instructors, so many great people within the community. It sucks.
Absolutely.
It sucks that one rotten apple spoils the bunch.
Yep.
It
Hmm.
sucks.
Yeah,
But
and I
I'm
want
glad that
to.
but I'm glad
Sorry.
that people are talking about it, that people are bringing it to light, and it's out there, man. And so if you are borderline and like have those little urges and
Urges.
impulses, dude, stop, because you're going to be put on blast and people are going to know about it, and you will no longer have a normal life.
Yep.
That's it.
Reputation, career
His
ruined.
reputation is going to be done.
Yeah.
Career,
And
yeah, yeah,
and it
that's
trickles
it.
down to like even like your family and stuff like that too, because
Absolutely.
they'll always associate, oh, that's such
Yeah,
and such mom, like the pervert or whatever, like
exactly. El sucio ahí.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to, you don't want to do that. And I'm really glad that you brought that other point up, where highlighting that there are some great people in the
Absolutely.
the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu community, great students, great instructors, upstanding individuals. And like you said, like just because there's those you have those few bad apples, like there's still some great people there that
100%.
yeah. So
100%. So yeah, man. So that's it, man. Honestly, I can't think of anything else that we could say that would do justice to this.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
know on behalf of Lambdas who roll, myself, you, Fernando, Diego, we we sympathize with the victims,
Victims. Yep.
and we will hope to always do our best to ensure that this doesn't happen to our immediate circles. And this is the reason why, if we have this small platform that we've created for ourselves, that we felt the need to say something about it, so that we add to that narrative, right? And hopefully give some advice, something of benefit, share something of benefit that would help other people, not make the mistake, and help other people, um, you know, find a better way of dealing with these issues so that these issues don't come up to this level, you know.
Exactly. And
um
also too, like just giving, also empowering people to have the voice to say something if they do
exactly,
see something,
exactly,
or or
absolutely,
hear something, like don't just be, don't say, you have to speak up,
right,
even if it's out of fear of retaliation, like you said, like maybe,
yeah,
an anonymous
yeah,
box, like,
yeah.
whistleblower holla out on, but just, make sure that you, or even like, yeah, talk to a couple of your friends, with that strength in numbers,
Yeah.
that can, help,
And
change or
don't,
potentially.
and I'm gonna say something like, I know it's hard, and this is a hard, it's hard, but we have to try our best to not make other excuses for or justifications for letting these things happen either to ourselves or to other people. Um, you know, if it's a world class gym, and like, damn, but I'm not going to get any the same level of training at another school, or if I go to the other school next down the street, or I'm not going to be part of this team, or I'm going to lose my sponsorships, or I'm going to do this and that. You got to pick one or the other, man. You got to pick
Mhm.
one or the other. Um, you know, I would, with the quickness, I would prefer to put my child in a school that I know is going to be safe, and even if it's not the same level of jujitsu, because there's still going to be some benefit, right?
Yep.
So you got to just weigh those options. And I don't even think there's options, right? I don't
Yeah,
even think
yeah.
there are options, right? Just a poor choice of words, but
Mhm.
just I think that you just can't make those excuses like, oh, my friends are here, oh, but I've been here for 30 years, for 10 years, I'm almost a black belt. If I leave, man, you can't do that.
It is what it is. I
You
mean,
can't do
you
that.
always,
Yeah.
the black belt, will always be. They'll come eventually. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
And
like
and
me.
and
You
yeah,
know.
and again, it's easier said than done. I understand that sometimes though we truly believe in those justifications, or alternative arguments that we give ourselves, but I mean, sometimes you just got to just stop and really think and have some introspection, reflect on what's really going on and what's best for you or for the other individual. So, yeah, it's a difficult thing, man. And
Yeah.
hopefully we could get over this as a community. Hopefully we can move forward in a better and better ourselves, strengthen our understanding and the way we handle these things. And I hope it stops, man. I hope at the end of the day this doesn't continue, because it's just like anything, man. When you read about it, like, oh man, now it's tainting,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we find as amazing, you know. And that sucks. I hate that. I
Yeah.
mean, and but it is what it is. It's happened. We're bringing it to light. We're hoping that we're making a positive impact. We're saying something that it'll fall on somebody's ears, and hopefully, help someone. But that's it, man. That's all. So let's go
Mhm.
around the room, man. Last few words, Fernando. What we got?
Um. Which that's funny. We're still like still processing stuff. But I know I want to give a quick shout out to my son Gabriel. Just turned 5 years old on Friday. He's a beacon of light. Love him so much. Just it's been an honor to watch him grow. These past 5 years. I hope to get him started on his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu journey pretty soon.
Yeah.
So hopefully, he'll have this experience with his dad, and then like I guess I'll be in that situation where now like as this stuff comes to light, as is coming to light, I'll be mindful, I'll know what to look out for, and just be more being more involved in that aspect, and having a trust in this, but also too like like not being too trusting, just being around, just monitoring, not hovering, being like a helicopter parent, but just being a mindful of my son's surroundings and things like that. So I just want to
Awesome.
give a quick shout out to him, 5 years old. You know, thank you. So,
Awesome. Happy birthday, Gabe, man. But yeah, man. So I think what I wanted to say was said. I'm hoping that this is a benefit of people. If you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, feel free to share with us. Like as Fernando said, like and subscribe to our channel, our Instagram page. We're hoping to continue to bring amazing content and contributing to the jiu-jitsu community, representing it as best as we possibly can. Um, we have a couple of things that we're working on behind the scenes, but next week's show we have a pretty exciting one. We've already identified the topic, which is jiu-jitsu sport versus street. Let's talk about that. We're gonna see what works and what not, and I'll save it for next week. But it really I thought about it after I saw this highlight, and I have it all saved, so we'll talk about it next week. But I'm looking forward to that. So with that said, everybody train hard, train smart,
Yeah.
and hopefully this was a benefit for everybody. And we'll be back next Sunday for another episode of Lambdas Will Roll Live. With that said, para siempre, take care,
Para
everybody.
siempre. And also, if you see something, say something.
Us.
Us.